Shall do this. What is up, Bulldogs? All right, today, yes, this is not a joke. Okay, it's real. I have a real male porn star. Sterling Cooper is here. He's been kind enough to join me and answer your questions here. So I think this is going to be interesting. I guess you can ask whatever you want. Use the super chat to get your question noticed though, because I think there's going to be a lot of questions here, and I've got a bunch of questions myself. So yeah, welcome, Sterling.
Thanks for having me, John. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, so man, it's definitely interesting, like to have you on, because I haven't really ever talked to. I don't think most people talk to someone who's works in the adult industry. So what's kind of like, how did you get started? What made you even think to get into this? And I think a lot of guys probably think about it, but how did you actually get started?
Yeah, I actually thought about it as a teenager. Honest to God, when I was a teenager, I used to think, man, it'd be really cool to be a porn star one day, and then didn't think of it for like another 15 years.
Right.
So I was running my own like small meal delivery business back where I'm from in Perth, Western Australia, and it got to the point where I was not really enjoying the work I was doing. Was having conflict with my business partner, so I was like, look, why the hell am I doing all this? Why am I like sitting there hustling, trying to make money and stuff? And I sat down and I thought, well, why do I want to? I'm doing this because I want to make money. Well, why do I want to make money? I want to make money so I could travel around the world banging hot chicks. Really, if I was really honest with myself,
right.
I drilled it down. Like, why am I doing this? And that was the reason why. And then I thought, well, why don't I just cut out the middleman and go to like the source and get paid at the same time? And so giving a bit more background to that, prior to getting into the porn side of things, I had worked as a straight male escort in Australia, where it's legal to do so. And before that, I had worked. I'd gotten into the swingers scene. So basically, I had a lot of experience, shall we say, performing in front of groups of people or in front of a crowd, right? And so I sort of leveraged that experience and a few of the connections I'd made in that space. And I got the contact details of a couple of directors in Melbourne, and I pitched them a demo reel, if you will, and they said yes, and they gave me my first shot. And then I sort of leveraged my first couple of scenes in Melbourne, Australia. I leveraged that experience, and then reached out, and then I moved to the UK and reached out to some directors over there, and started using leverage that experience to get some more experience there with bigger studios, and then did the same thing again in Eastern Europe, and then did the same thing again now here in Los Angeles. So I sort of just baby stepped my way through the industry until I made it to the mecca, if you will, of the adult entertainment industry, which is Los Angeles.
Now that begs the question, right? How do you construct a demo reel? Is it you just saying, hey, I want to come over to my place. Oh, by the way, if you wouldn't mind helping me out, I just got a quick favor. Just if I could have this camera on,
ignore the camera in the corner. It wasn't quite like that. So I had there was a couple that I used to swing with a lot back in the day. So me and him would double team his wife basically, and I was like, hey, I want to try and get into porn. I want to do some demo footage. Do you mind if we film this? They're like, no, just don't put it on the internet. Just only send it to this director, and we're fine with it. So I rented a hotel room, hired rented some cameras, got these guys come in, had another friend film it for us, and it's the footage is terrible. I had no idea what I was doing at the time, because you can see lights and cords and stuff in the shots. It's atrocious, but it did the job. And so I cut it up into each different position. It was basically just demonstrating that, hey, I can because there's a couple of things guys don't really understand about shooting professional pornography is you have to sort of turn a certain way and open up to the camera. That's the expression we use, so you can see things.
Right.
Yeah. It's a lot different. It's a lot different to the way you would have sex in your personal life.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I was sort of demonstrating that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I've done my research. I know what you want to see, and I can do it on camera with other people in the room. In a semi-professional context. So that's how I made my demo reel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. Just just the idea of, because so many people have ideas that they want to do, like starting a business or doing something, and they don't see it possible, so they don't take the steps. But it was like, I mean, I just like the idea that you're like, okay, I want to do this, so I'm just going to take the logical steps to get there. And then it's like, obviously it's probably was a lot of probably not easy to get there, I'm sure, but you took the steps. It was like, here's the obvious step is I'll shoot a demo reel. And it's like so many people like use all these excuses for not doing what they want to do in life. And it's like, hey, you just got to take the steps. And I mean, this is like, I love this as an example just because it's one that no one would ever think of, right? They wouldn't think that this would be something, or they would never think of like taking logical steps to get to what you did.
That's exactly it. It's like breaking any long. I mean, like it's been a repeated process in my life where I've had a long-term goal. I'm like, all right, well, let's just break it down into actionable chunks. Reverse engineer this thing as best I can, and then execute on each of those little steps. And it was literally verbatim, like a year, probably, yeah. Like I'd made a 1 year plan from like the day I said, okay, I'm gonna make demo reel, move to Melbourne, then I'm gonna move to the UK, and then I'm gonna try and shoot in Europe. And it was almost exactly a year to the day when I'd set that plan in motion, and I'd executed on every single little point that I'd made. So it just goes to show, like, yeah, people make excuses for all these things because either they want it to fall into their lap straight away, like handed to them on a silver platter, or they overcomplicate it and they're like, oh, this is too big and too big for me to comprehend. How on earth do I even do this? It's, well, you break it down. And that's the same with any goal, no matter what it is. I mean, like, getting fit, for example, like losing body weight. It's like, it's not a case of, oh, I've got to lose 20 pounds in a day or in a week or whatever. It's consistent, repeated action daily will get you to where you want to be, And whether or not you agree morally with what I do for people in your audience, whether or not you agree morally with what I do as a profession, that's neither here nor there. Trying to take away what John's trying to show you here is like, okay, here's a guy who came from, like, I'm from country Western Australia. Yeah. Like, I'm from a 3,000 person town in the most isolated the most isolated capital city in the world, Perth, West Australia. It's the middle of nowhere, right? And there's basically no porn industry in Australia at all. There's only like 2 companies in Melbourne that shoot boy-girl porn. So it's like, if I was able to pull that off just through like executing on a plan, what are you capable of? Given your circumstances. So
exactly, yeah. No, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because there's definitely some people that are like, ooh, I don't agree with this. And I always try to like take a non-moralistic viewpoint, like especially on this channel, and just looking at, okay, what can we learn, right? And I think that's the most important thing, is because you can believe whatever you want, and I'm cool with that, but I think that, like, it's interesting just to see what you've done, and then some real questions, like, because you have a perspective that most men are not going to have, right? So I think one thing actually that I'm interested in what you just talked about is how about the what have you learned about like performance anxiety, like in the sense that, I mean, when you're filming a demo reel, right? I mean, it's like, it's one thing when you're alone, or maybe with a couple or something like that, but when you've got a camera crew in there, and it's like, I mean, that's a lot of, like, guys struggle with performance anxiety, just like getting it up just on a one night stand. I think that's a pretty common thing. So how did that affect you, or and what did you learn about that? Like, what kind of lesson, like, how can maybe your perspective help guys that are struggling with that kind of problem?
Absolutely, man. It's a thing that every single male porn star has to deal with at some point in their career, right? And it's weird. Most of the time when people want to talk to porn stars about like sex advice, they go to the women, which is the wrong, like why the hell are you asking the women about this stuff? That's like I use the analogy. That's like asking a sheep how to shear its own wool.
Right.
Like, they've got no idea. Like, for them, it just magically happens, right?
Yeah.
Us guys, we all like, and so one of the things I actually pick the brain of more experienced male performers all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm always trying to find good, like, if I'm on set with a guy, or I meet him at a social event. If he's more experienced than me, I'm always going to try and glean some little piece of information from him. And it's amazing how much overlap there is with a lot of this stuff amongst. Once you start seeing these patterns, like, oh, a bunch of dudes meditate in my industry. That's one of the ways they overcome this sort of stuff, right? So when you talk about performance anxiety, there's a concept I write about in my book, which I call the porn star mindset. And it's basically like the three elements that dudes use to sort of, like the three kind of mental keys they have to stop stuff like performance anxiety and whatnot from happening, right? So one of them is being present in the moment, and that's where meditation comes in. Right?
Okay,
so
right. That makes sense. Yeah.
It's about keeping your focus on like the task at hand, on the woman, right? Rather than letting your focus drift off to things like these negative thoughts which can spiral out of control. Like, oh, does she like me? Is she impressed with me? Is she getting pleasure out of this? Am I being like, is my dick going limp? Oh shit, my dick's going limp. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where that leads. So if this is where meditation is very important. So if you make meditation a daily practice, even if something as simple as 5-10 minutes a day, you start to train your brain to become present in the moment and to stop following these trails of thoughts, right, and remain focused. The second thing I talk about when I talk about these three elements of a porn star mindset. The second is being able to be aroused, like, and you're getting yourself into a state of arousal like as on command as you can get, right? So that means either having that's for us professionals. This is something more that professionals need to use, because sometimes the girls we're shooting with, we don't really have much chemistry with. You know?
Yeah.
It's not all they're all objectively hot,
right?
But sometimes, their personality kind of gets in the way of that. So
yeah,
you have to go somewhere in here. Either you go back to a memory you have, which is sort of something that always gets you excited.
Yeah.
Or you find something about her that you focus on, or you're getting into the role of the character you're playing and using that. You sort of find something to trigger this arousal response in your brain. And then the third thing we need to do is we need to eliminate the fight or flight response, which is basically that performance anxiety situation you're talking about. So the fight or flight response is a good thing. It's there to keep us safe, right? But you have to train your brain to realize, wait a minute, this is not the deadly situation that my body it thinks it is, and that's what it's reacting to, right? So we got to do things. One of the things that I will do, and I learned this from another performer, is basically like, it's a kind of yogic breathing where you're basically exhaling. Say you're exhaling for a count of like 8, and you're inhaling for a count of 4. So the exhalation response is actually a relaxation response. It triggers that in the body. So if I find that my heart rate is going up and I can tell I'm starting to get a bit nervous here, then I'm going to concentrate on my breath for a bit. That's one. That's a kind of meditation. But 2, the actual physical act of exhaling for twice as long as I'm inhaling is physiologically causing a relaxation response in the body, right? And that's going to eliminate that fight or flight, like, adrenaline response. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's an example. And I have like in my book, I actually have each of those sections is a chapter when I break down a bunch of different techniques that guys in my industry use or that I've learned from them on each of those things, like how to get aroused, how to eliminate the fight or flight response, how to get how to get present in the moment. Because it helps to have multiple tools in your tool bag.
Yeah.
In a professional context. So if I'm on set and I'm like, okay, here's my normal routine to sort of get myself in the right mental state. If that's not working, if it's a rough day, for example, okay, I've got a few more tools I can pull out of tool bag that I can use to make sure I can get the job done. You know?
Yeah.
And it's the same. That's the same with like any profession. You know, like a boxer is going to have more than one punch he can throw. You know.
That makes sense. Okay. I want to drill a little bit more into this. No pun intended. Before, I want to hit a couple of super chats here while I've got them up here. So this one from Miska says, thoughts on penis pump and launch medical Phoenix.
I think I know what you're talking about with the Phoenix. It's like a it's like an ultrasonic sound, like shockwave device. So basically the Phoenix thing that he's talking about, if I'm understanding his question correctly, it was based off this like technology called Gainswave, which was used to treat erectile dysfunction in men. And from all the research I've looked into it, it absolutely 100% works. Basically, the principle is that your penis obviously has arteries and things in it, and as you age, or with poor, say for example, poor diet and nutrition, just like the arteries in your heart can develop plaques, the arteries in your penis can develop plaques as well, and that inhibits the blood flow and can lead to erectile dysfunction, a physical manifestation of erectile dysfunction. So what this device does is it sort of breaks apart that plaque and clears out the arteries using this sort of shockwave therapy. And from everything I've looked into it, it absolutely works. Yeah, so it's especially good for guys who are like, 35, 40 plus.
Yeah.
Or if you have a particularly terrible diet. Right?
Yeah.
And you drink a lot, you smoke a lot, eat a ton of sugar, and your arteries are just clogged. I'm not going to say you should use it on your heart, but you should definitely try it out on your dick and like clear things out, and then your that physiological problem with ED will be cured. Yeah, it's a very, very powerful device. It's not cheap, but it's very powerful. Yeah.
Okay. And then we got just a quick shout out to Shannon, who says, "This is great. Thanks for doing this interview." So thanks, Shannon. So I think maybe we connecting those things. So most guys that are probably having problems. Well, I think there's probably a big confusion between what is actual ED and just a performance anxiety / arousal type of problem, right? Because I think a lot of guys think they have ED, but then it's like you ask them, like, well, I mean, if you watch some porn or like, can you get it up? And of course they can, and so it must not be a functional problem. So they're thinking it, and they're trying to treat ED when really it's the more psychological problem that you had talked about before.
What I would a lot of what we're seeing now, right, with sort of guys in the age range of like 30 or under, is we're actually seeing let me get my thoughts straight for a second here. The dudes who are in their 50s plus, right? The problem that generation tended to have when it came to sex was premature ejaculation, right? That was probably the most common problem that these guys always talked about, was like, oh man, I'm so excited that I'm popping really early. Now the problem is actually opposite. Since the advent of high definition streaming pornography, like the tube sites, right, like Pornhub and these sort of things, the complete opposite has happened. Now a lot of younger men are reporting that they actually can't orgasm during sex. Now, that is linked to what I'm going to talk about right now, which is the whole erectile dysfunction thing. It's linked to dopamine bombardment in the brain. So if I'm, like you just said, the guy might have ED problems when he's trying to have sex with a lady, but if he's watching porn, he's fine. Well, the problem is that when guys start consuming a hell of a lot of internet porn, they're training their brain to need constant variety all the time in order to maintain that same level of arousal and excitement. So they're basically screwing with their dopamine reward system in their brain. So what I tell guys to do a lot of the time is, look, if you're having this problem where either you're having trouble orgasming during sex, or you're having trouble getting aroused with your girlfriend, cut out things like social media, like cut out the phone for as long as you possibly can.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
Cut out, like, because it's that, oh, check my Instagram feed, check my Twitter feed. Like,
it's dopamine.
Like the dopamine hits, right? Cut that out. Cut out the pornography, right? And go on what I call a dopamine fast. To try for like 30 days, to give the dopamine receptors in your brain a chance to reset and sort of heal themselves and become accustomed to quote unquote normal a dopamine response again. And you should see that you'll become a lot more easily aroused, and you'll be able to climax as you should normally. Yeah, that's actually it's all this sort of all this technology coming in and interfering with our reward circuitry, which can have a serious impact on that.
I would imagine too that that's probably connected to like even like the libido aspect of it, right? Because if you're getting like this dopamine, I guess people really don't connect it, right? Because it's like, okay, you know, a lot of guys are like, okay, no fap and quit the porn, but the other dopamine hits are also probably going to reduce your libido because your brain is being stimulated, you're getting that dopamine, and so like the idea of a naked woman, you know, sitting on your bed is not quite as appealing or motivating as it would be if you didn't have all those other methods of getting that dopamine, right?
Yeah, I mean, like in this day and age, we're sort of trained for we train our brains for immediate reward. You know, like, oh, what TV show do I want to watch right now? Well, here's Netflix with a billion fucking choices, like at my fingertip, immediate like reward for whatever I want. You know, back in the day, it was like, here's the TV guide. I have to wait till 10 p.m. to watch the one show I want to watch tonight. You know, it's like delayed gratification is missing now, and I think that's something you need. If you're having these kind of problems, you need to start actively implementing delayed gratification into your life in certain ways. So that's I mean, physical exercise is a great like trying to get fit and healthy is a perfect example of delayed gratification, right? You don't get abs in like a day,
right?
That takes time, right? You gotta work on it. So adding like any way that you can add delayed gratification into your life is going to have a lot of knock-on positive effects.
So another thing I'll ask, I think that, well, okay, so kind of relate because I want to drill down in this. I think because I've got a lot of questions that people had emailed me relate to the same thing, and I get them all the time. So suppose you're already in the situation, right? So because I think what you said are a lot of preventative things, which are good for sure, right? And guys should implement those, but suppose a guy's in the situation where he's in an encounter and he's doing what you said. He's like, oh shit. He's like thinking about, and he's like, oh, it's not getting up, and it's like, you know, and then he's like getting into this. Is there, because is there a way to reset? Is there like, what is the best thing that he should do encountering that situation?
So you got to remember that like the body and the mind are connected, right? So one way to sort of try and if you're in that negative pattern, you've got to break the pattern, right? And motion can create emotion. So if I'm in this negative headspace, I need to do something physical to break that mental space and get into a new space. So whatever I'm doing physically, okay, it's not working. I'm trailing off. Like if one example is if I'm on set, I will just call cut and I'll walk out of the room and go do something else for 5 minutes.
Interesting. Okay.
Just completely break.
Yeah.
So I'm not in that space anymore. I'm not in that mental space anymore. I'm off getting a drink of water. I'm off, I don't know, doing some push-ups or doing some star jumps or doing something to like get my brain in a completely different mental space. Another thing that that me and a lot of older male performers like to do is just eat pussy. To be perfectly honest, you know, and if for some weird reason there's a lot of like negativity on Twitter around like eating pussy these days.
That's kind of
which is bizarre to me. I don't understand that at all.
The same beta guys that are like that belong to the ass eating generation.
Right.
Like, I could tell you which one tastes better.
I mean, I'm a fan of both. Don't get me wrong, but that's something that's like, okay, like if you're trying to have penetrative sex and it's not, you know, it's not quite there, and it's in your brain, it's like take yourself out because you're thinking about yourself, right? Inherently, your mentality is you're in a selfish headspace because all you're doing is thinking about yourself, right? In that moment when you're like, oh god, my dick's going in, blah blah blah. So it's like, okay, switch the focus to somebody else. That's a big thing. You're switching the focus away from yourself to like, okay, well, let's just eat some pussy and like, what can I do to get her off right now, and enjoy getting her off. Like, don't do it. Don't do that from a selfish, egotistical like, I want to prove that I'm the man kind of frame of mind. Come at it from just pure love of eating pussy. I mean, like I said, like apparently this is a thing for like that older guys tend to enjoy more than anything else. So they actually genuinely enjoy the act of cunnilingus, whereas younger guys tend to be afraid of it for some reason. I'm not sure, but that's one thing where you can just take yourself out of that space. Another way of doing it is you don't have like women enjoy lots of different things in the bedroom, and it doesn't. You can still be very dominant, like sexually dominant with a woman, with your dick in your pants. Like there's lots of things you can do that are gonna like turn her on and arouse her, which can show you being like sexually dominant, where your dick doesn't have to be hard yet. So I don't know about like most guys, but for me, I like being in that dominant position. I like doing things to a woman where I can see that it's getting her off. I can see in her eyes and her body language that she's getting turned on and aroused, and that in turn turns me on and arouses me, right? So it's less about like, oh, I have to step up and be the man and be ready to go like straight away. It's more about, okay, like I'm going to play this. We're going to go at my pace. I'm going to lead us through this situation. I'm going to get you all fired up, and then that's going to get me fired up, and then we're good to go.
I see.
So that might be something, if you're into BDSM and bondage and these kind of things, that might be teasing her by tying her up a little bit, tying her hands together, tying her feet together, whatever that might be. It might be, using a riding crop, using a flogger, doing a bunch of different things that you could consider to be foreplay, right? That don't necessarily require you to be like ready to go straight away, but will get you there in the long run. And because it's focusing on someone else, it's not being selfish. Yeah. So those are some in the moment things that guys can actually do.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like the idea of like of changing that, getting into that arousal loop instead of like where you're at the point where it's like you're focused on yourself and then it's really hard to get into the present moment, I think, at that point. So you're taking it out, either focusing on her pleasure or something that which that you're going to be aroused by that arousal, by her being aroused. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing that I was curious about as well, because it's kind of funny, I actually use this as a metaphor a lot of times because people ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, essentially the question of like following your passion, right?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't know what I should do in life," and and I always tell them. You may have even heard it on one of my videos where I'm like, because I say whatever you're doing, whatever you pick in life, you're going to hate it someday. You're going to wake up and you're going to be, it doesn't matter whatever it is. And I always use the joke. I said, even if you're a professional porn star, right? Someday you're going to wake up and you're like, I just don't feel like fucking today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that true? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Some days it's work.
Yeah.
Some days it is work, and that comes down to like the girl you shoot, like the chemistry you have with the person you're supposed to be shooting with, or it can come down to like the director and the set you're on. Some are better than others. So some days it's so great you wonder why you're even being paid at all. It's like this is the easiest, funnest job in the world. I shouldn't be getting a paycheck. But in other days it is work. So yes, even in our job, and you can ask any male performer this, even in our job that does happen.
Yeah. So guys, you heard it firsthand now. So it's not just something I'm making up at this point. It's true, because it's funny because it's like if you can think of something that would be more exciting and fun to do for a job, then I don't know what it is, but no matter what it is, you're gonna have days where you just don't feel like doing it, and and even like I mean, maybe my job isn't as exciting as yours, like most people would say, but it is pretty cool to be able to be on YouTube and make videos and do and just have fun conversations with people. But some days I don't want to do it, or some days I don't want to do coaching, and even though it's like compared to an office job, it's so much better. But yeah, I think it's good to get that perspective for guys to realize that, hey, it's not, there's nothing that's going to be like perfect. So
yeah, and it's like your problems don't go away; they just upgrade, right? When you start, if you're pursuing a passion or you're doing if you're you're doing things you want to be doing in life, problems don't just magically disappear. They just get the quality of the problems get better. So like my quality problem is I don't like the way this girl sucks my dick.
Right.
That's a good problem to have
Yeah.
versus like, oh, I'm struggling to pay rent this month.
So let's see. Got a super chat here from Reline. He said he didn't attach it, but he said, "Do you suggest Kegel exercises or some other exercises for better performance, health, enjoyment?"
Yeah, Kegel exercises are fantastic,
Hmm.
especially if you're starting to get a little bit older. I'd highly recommend doing some daily or every other day Kegel exercise. I mean, adding that into you can do these things in the shower. This is something you can do like simultaneously while you're doing some kind of mundane activity. You can sit there, bust out a set of like 50 to 100 reps of Kegels while you're sitting down typing at your work or while you're in the shower washing up. It's very, very easy to get these into your daily routine, and they pay tremendous dividends down the line. So they help you with erectile strength. They help you with control over your like sensitivity, like control over your orgasm. They also help with your orgasm strength. So you actually not only will you ejaculate like more and further, but the orgasm will also be more pleasurable. So it has a tremendous amount of benefits for Kegels. Kegels is easily like the one exercise that anyone could do that will add tremendous benefit to their sex life. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I was curious about too is so how do, because I imagine, and I could be wrong here, but I imagine that you also probably date regular girls, not just porn star girls, right?
Not so much anymore.
Oh, okay.
Now that I'm in LA, I'm working a fair bit. It's kind of this weird situation where the talent pool is probably like in Los Angeles, the talent pool is maybe a couple hundred people.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're all getting STI tests, either weekly or bi-weekly. So we're all clean, we're all tested. And the only way that STIs get into our industry is from outside the industry. So there is a bit of a faux pas to a degree, or like a bit of a stigma about having sex with people outside the industry. Because if you fuck around a lot outside the industry, then you're likely to eventually bring in an STI, and then you're out of work for a couple of weeks, and everyone you worked with the last few seasons is out of work for a couple of weeks if they've got the STI as well. So I did used to like, back when I was first starting, the first couple of years of my career, I was absolutely like, hooking up with girls on Tinder quite a lot, and obviously I'm using a condom every time. I'm still staying protected. But as my work has just increased, it sort of got to the point where I'm getting lazier. Unfortunately, it's like, okay, do I put in like a bunch of effort to text and set up a date and then go on a date and then have sex with a girl, or do I message like one of the dozens of porn stars in my phone and be like, hey, do you want to shoot some content together? And then she comes over and we have sex.
Yeah,
it's like one takes 1% effort compared to like 99% effort. So unfortunately, I'm a bit spoiled in that regard. So it sort of skews things.
Okay, because I was going to ask about. By the way, that's a great. I mean, guys, there you go. Your Tinder message, like after your opener, then you just ask, do you want to come over and shoot some content together? And that, there you go, right there. But
results may vary.
Yeah. What I was gonna, she'll be like, what do you mean some content? Just come over and you'll see. I'm shooting a demo reel today. There we go. You can bring your husband if you like. But so what the reason why I was going to ask that too, and was because I was wondering, and I guess it's not as much of a problem now, but after, well, it's kind of related, like how do porn star girls compare to regular girls? Because I was wondering, like, okay, so you're fucking these porn star girls, and then like if you hook up with a regular girl, is it just like she's just so not so good, like compare, you know what I mean, like you have these, or is there much of a difference that with someone who's actually that experienced versus the regular girl. Although a lot of regular girls today are as experienced as porn stars. So.
That's kind of what I was just about to allude to. Yeah, not really. There's not really that much difference. There's only a certain amount of experience I think that a girl needs to get in the bedroom before she's basically good in bed. Like, and you can, like, don't get me wrong, like, if you have a girl if you marry a virgin, you can teach a woman how to be good in bed for you, because every guy's different. But yeah, you'll hook up with girls on Tinder and things who are just as good, if not better, sometimes than porn stars when in the sack. And here's why: because at a certain point, it depends what point a girl is in her career. At a certain point, they can get like a lot of ego and narcissism around them. So it kind of taints the sex a little bit because they have this attitude of like, oh, you're lucky to be fucking me.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So it's like, I'd rather be having sex with a girl on Tinder who feels lucky to be having sex with me,
right?
Yeah. And then it's like then the energy is fantastic, right? So, and look, to be perfectly honest, you'd be stunned at the number of porn star chicks who are terrible at giving blowjobs.
Really? Okay. See, that does stun me.
We have sex for the camera.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
When we're doing stuff and like doing all these like ridiculous like face fucking blowjobs or like lots of gagging and spitting and stuff. It looks hot. It looks really good on camera, but it doesn't feel fantastic.
Yeah. I would imagine. Yeah. Okay.
Like your penis is grinding into teeth a lot. It's like so.
Yeah.
So it really comes down to the chemistry more than anything above anything else. Like from the more sex I've had, and at this point my notch count is like 500 plus.
Yeah.
At this point, like the best sex is good chemistry, hands down. It doesn't really matter like how much experience she's had or what she can do, if she can like put her legs behind her head. Yeah, that stuff's cool. But if you and her have really good chemistry and she just has this genuine burning desire for you, you can't beat it. You really can't beat that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's interesting because I tell guys all the time in regards to dating is I tell them, would you rather have a girl that lets you fuck her or wants to fuck you, right? And it's a huge difference, right? Because guys are always like, oh, well, I can use money and I can, whatever. And it's like, yeah, you can. But if you have a girl that lets you fuck her because of she's trying to gain something from you, it's a totally different experience than the girl that wants to fuck you.
Absolutely.
And do you find that like the chemistry thing, do you find that it is like a physical attraction thing, or that there's something just, besides that, right? I mean, like if the girl is hot enough, is it just something that, I don't know, like is there something deeper than just the physical level that
at least in my experience on being on set with these girls, it's not the physical thing. It's definitely like an attitude. It's an attitude and personality thing that creates that chemistry. Because I mean, basically everyone in this industry is hot,
Yeah.
So it's like guys and girls. So you go to set, you're going to be working with, like, in her experience, she's always going to be working with a good-looking dude, and in my experience, I'm always going to be working with a good-looking girl.
Right.
But when it's electric, it's just so it's something, man. It's like it's in the way that you make eye contact with each other. It's in the way that your vocal tonality when you're talking to each other. Like it's in the way that you touch each other. It's all these little subtle things that make the chemistry really, really strong and electric, and you can feel it. Like I can tell when I go to set now. Like I can tell within the first 5 minutes, well, probably less than that, within the first minute of meeting a girl, if this is going to be a good day, like if this is going to be like a great day, a good day, or a bad day, And it's like probably like 1/3 of the girls I shoot with, it's a fantastic day. We have electric chemistry. Probably another third, it's like, okay, this is it's not bad, but it's okay. It's just sort of routine. And then another third is like I mentioned before, they're kind of a little bit there's a bit of ego and narcissism there. It's like she has this attitude of like, oh, you're lucky to be fucking me. It's like, okay, this is going to be work. Like I have to sort of, and then I have to do something to like kind of get that attitude out of her head, and we can get a good thing going.
Yeah.
But with this third, that's like where it's really electric. It's that electricity tends to happen within the first like 30 seconds to a minute of meeting the girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to, and it's not because you're the best looking dude she's worked with. It's not that. It's just you bring some kind of energy where, like, you look at it, the way you look at it, you're like, I've got you figured out. And it comes back, and it's like, bang, it's on, and it's no, this is not work anymore. We're both really, really going to enjoy this day, and like the tension built because we don't have sex like immediately when we get to set. We have to do all the dialogue, we have to do photos, and blah blah. So you've got a whole day of like this sexual tension building up. So when it does come time to actually have sex, it's like kaboom, like this, all this like built up tension explodes. But yeah, that's there's something there, man. It's really hard to describe.
Right.
It's all subtle body language stuff.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's what I figured that would probably be the case, because it's just from my own experience and just from coaching a lot of guys and stuff, and it's just there's that like this element that you can't really put a finger on, and why some encounters are so much better, or why people just generally connect. Because I think a lot of guys, the reason why I bring it up, because a lot of guys want to bring it always down to like that being the most physically attractive man, kind of the black pill thing. And it's just so false on so many levels, and one of them is just like you said, like that chemistry. It's like for some reason, you're not as attractive as this other guy that this woman has access to, but she just connects with you better. That chemistry is there, and maybe it's just some kind of maybe it's pheromone related to some degree, but whatever it is, it's like something that you can't predict, and it just occurs.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like a blueprint thing. Maybe she has a blueprint in her head of like what kind of guys did she like fantasize about growing up as a teenage girl, right? Like what were the posters she had on her wall? Maybe you're blueprinting onto this guy that she had this rock star she had a crush on or something. Like you've got no idea why that's the case, and that adds something like what you were saying then. Maybe she's got access to an objectively more attractive, hotter guy, but she's creaming herself for you. Like the reverse goes as well. Like there's plenty of girls that just aren't into me, right? And I'm a good looking dude. You're not gonna there's no a man on this planet that every woman is attracted to, hands down. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't care if it's Brad Pitt. There's some girl who doesn't want to fuck him. Like you're never gonna attract every single woman. That's why it's like reinforcing the idea to guys that it's more of a numbers game than anything else can be useful in breaking, like, because if you are going through like a dry spell, or you have a lot of successive interactions with women and they don't like you, you start to think, oh, what's wrong with me? It's all my fault. Blah blah blah. I'm not. My looks are terrible. My style's terrible, or whatever. Right? You get in this negative feedback loop. You've got to, if that's happening to you, you've got to just expose yourself to more and more women, because it is on a big level. It's a numbers game.
Yeah, no, it's I think that's very true. It's almost like, even like and you get that experience, and you get to the point where it's like, I don't know, where you have that experience where you're like, okay, it doesn't even matter. I can't fuck this up, because like you can sense the chemistry, and then you're just like, I can say whatever the fuck I want. Like you're not trying to spit game anymore, because you just know it's a lock, right? And so it's like, and then that's when you're actually the best, because then you're acting in a way of a high value man, not needy at all.
You're being so genuine. Like that's a good way of phrasing it. You get the sense that you can't fuck it up. Yeah. That, and like you're right. It unlocks like your best personality, if you will.
Exactly. All right, let's see. We got a super chat here from Smith the Sun. He says, "Big size versus smaller size, does it really matter?" I'm assuming he's talking about dick size.
So I'm going to assume he's talking about that as well.
Could be vagina size, maybe.
Could be vagina size. Well, actually, like, on that note, I am not a fan of tiny vaginas.
Okay,
I actually prefer contrary to popular opinion, I actually prefer my vaginas to be a little bit bigger. That's just me. I like some space to move around. But in regards to penis size, there was actually a survey done. I can't remember when it was done, but it was called the Husband Dick Survey. And they basically plotted you can find this graph online if you look it up. They plotted a graph of like girth and length of dudes of male appendages, and then they got women to sort of rank like pleasurability or preference for that on a scale of 1 to 10. And you can see this graph, and there's a big lump of like 8s, like 9s that clump around the intersection of like 8 inches in length and like 6.5 in girth is this sweet spot.
Okay,
for, like the perfect penis, because like the female, like the vagina is only so deep, right? So once you start pushing like 8 inches, once you get into like the 10, 12, and the girls in my industry will tell you this all the time. Once you start, when they're taking like 12-inch dicks, it hurts because the dude's penis is punching her cervix, which is not a pleasant feeling.
Right.
I mean, some girls get off on the pain side of things, but in general, it's an unpleasant sensation. So there is such a thing as too big.
Yeah.
And then obviously, it typically girth-wise though, some girls can struggle if your dick is a bit wider, but I've never really met a girl who's like, that dick is too wide. They typically like the feeling of being full and being stretched out. So girth-wise, if you got a thick penis, you're doing great.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it's bigger than a baby's head.
Well, yeah, think about it that way. Like a child has to come out of that hole, so they can take a bit of stretch. It's kind of malleable. But that's the width wise. Like depth wise, she doesn't. Yeah. There's no malleability in that, right? So there is a limit to like how pleasurable, how pleasurable it is in terms of length. And in my for those of you who don't know, I have a book on my Gumroad account, which is not so subtly titled "How I Grew My Penis and Other Porn Industry Secrets." So before I got into the industry, I was actually less than 6 inches in length, which is not very common for a person in my profession to have a below average penis size. So what I did in the first 8 months of my career, when I wasn't actually shooting that much, I spent 8 months scouring the internet for any bit of information I could find in regards to increasing the length and girth of my penis. And over the course of 8 months, I actually managed to increase the length of my dick by over an inch.
Okay, wow. Okay.
I detail exactly how I did it in my book, and I go over all the different devices and things that I do use and I still use today to continually like grow my length and the girth of my dick. So it is doable. It is not a magic pill. Right. There is no magic pill for this. So anytime you jump on like a tube site and you see an ad, take this pill, like secret African herb, that's a total load of crap. There is no like pill that you can take that is going to increase the size of your male appendage. It is effectively like a muscle. A good example of how it works is if you've ever seen, I forget the name of the tribe, but there's a tribe in Myanmar where the women put rings on their necks and they elongate their neck over the course of several years. That is kind of a similar principle. You're not putting rings on your dick to do this, but it's a similar principle. You can make it bigger. But it takes consistency and it takes time, but it is doable. So for any guys out there who might be a little bit below average or have maybe insecurities about it, it is something you could fix. So don't beat yourself up over it. Do something about it. That's what I'll say. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think that so many people are skeptical of it now because of all of the scamming. I just put the book link for Stirling's book, by the way, the Gumroad. You can click that in the chat. But you're
right. A lot of guys get scammed by this stuff because like there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money to be made in the magic pill promises. Especially on these sort of clickbait ads you see on Pornhub and things. But it's just not the case.
Yeah, so guys, check out the book and get the real ways to do it, and it is legitimate. I've done some research myself, and I can tell you that it is legit science. It's not it's not some but if it's a pill, then it's not. So there's no
basically.
So let me see. I was trying to think. There's so many questions that I have, but okay, so. What was it? I had one that I was going to ask you about. Oh, actually, we have a super chat. That's what I was going to do next. So, Relene says, can you talk about the A spot and how it compares to the G spot and the clit to give the girl a stronger orgasm? Thanks for doing this interview.
Cool. Thank you, man. So the women can orgasm like a ton of different ways, right? They're a lot of. That's why they're a lot of fun, because there's all these different buttons you can push, right? Now, the G spot and the clitoris are like super easy for most guys to sort of figure out where they are. The A spot tends to sit back further in the vagina, around the cervix, so it can be it can be very hard to reach unless you have a penis that's a certain length, or unless like you have sort of a small hand that can kind of get up in there and really hit that spot. So that can be a bit of a challenge for guys to get to. Most guys, I would suggest focusing on like learning how to massage the G spot properly, because it's like once you reach in. So let's pretend that is a vaginal opening, right? If you're looking for the G spot, guys, is basically just here, just on the ins. You can reach in with a finger, and it's just it's a spongy mound just on the inside of the vaginal opening. You can massage that, do a little bit of a come hither motion if you're doing that while you're going down on a girl, it's gonna blow her mind. They absolutely love that. So if you know where the G spot is, focus on that, and focus on, because not every girl, obviously not every girl is the same in terms of their like clitoral sensitivity. So some girls don't like it if you put a lot of pressure and a lot of force on their clitoris, and some girls do. So you sort of need to really be aware of her body language when you're stimulating her clitoris. I'm talking about if you're sort of going down on a girl and you can actually focus on it. Be very conscious of the feedback she's giving you while you're doing that. But typically, the G spot is pretty in terms of the amount of pressure you can apply to the G spot. That's pretty consistent across most girls, because it's on the inside of the vagina. It can take a fair bit of stimulation. Yeah, and that's also how you can get a girl to squirt, is by stimulating the G spot with sufficient force. That's how you can eventually get a girl to squirt.
Interesting. What percentage do you find like of girls that are actually capable of squirting? Because it's weird, because like you look at the porn, and it's definitely a false, right? It's like you look at it, you're like, okay, that's not real, but
So the thing with porn squirting, if the movie is based around squirting, then she's pissing on us.
Right.
She just drank like 2 liters of water beforehand, so it looks clear.
Yeah.
However, if it's not a squirting based scene or movie, and she squirts during a sex scene, then it's probably legit squirting.
Right.
Right. So if she's forced to do it, if she has to do it, then it's probably not real. But if it just happens in the course of a movie, then it tends to be legit. Every woman is capable of doing it, because they all have the same like physiology. It's all the instruments are there. But a lot of women have a mental block about letting it go. So like the fluid that comes, sometimes when a woman squirts, there is some pee that comes out with it, right? Whatever. But the fluid, if she's actually having a squirting orgasm, the fluid that's coming out is being produced by the thing called the Skene's gland, which is basically the female equivalent of the male prostate.
Right.
And it produces a fluid very similar to that of male seminal fluid minus the semen. So when a woman has a squirting orgasm, she's actually releasing this fluid. But a lot of women think that it's a similar sensation to that of peeing. So they feel like they're going to pee themselves, and so they have this mental block. Oh, I don't want to piss in front of this guy. I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to wet the bed. So they stop themselves from actually releasing. So a good way to start, if you have a partner and you're trying to train her how to squirt, a good place to start is actually in the shower, right? Where she's not going to feel embarrassed about making a mess or anything like that. She can do whatever she likes. She can make a mess. She's going to wash away. It's going to be fine.
Right.
Or in a bathtub, because she can sort of lay down and you can do it that way, a bit more relaxing. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Then we got Smith the Son with $1.99. He says, "Who's your favorite porn star to shoot with?"
That's a real tough one, because there's a lot.
Asking some dangerous questions here.
I'm not going to get you in trouble. I just generally a lot of girls I love to work with. Probably. Man, it's hard, because the more if I've only shot with the girl once and we had great chemistry, then I really, really, really want to shoot with her a second or third time.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of girls right now who I've only shot with once that I'd love to shoot with again. And then, but my problem is like after I have sex with a girl like 3 times, I sort of start to like the magic sort of starts to fade a little bit. I'm like, what's next? Move on to the next one. Move on to the next one. But probably one of my, I have to put Sarah J at the top of this list because the reason is because I used to masturbate to Sarah J when I was when I was 18, 19. So Sarah J's only a few years older than me, but she's been in the porn industry a lot longer than me.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Since she was like 18, 19. Right, but she's only like a couple of years older than me, and I had the chance to work with her either beginning of this year or end of last year. I had a chance to shoot content with her together, and we had electric chemistry. And it's bizarre when you get to have sex with a woman you used to masturbate to. So it's a weird like mind fuck, but it was a great experience, and and we have great chemistry, and we want to shoot again together again. So she's probably I'll put her at the top for that reason.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, and it kind of goes back to the whole blueprint thing that you said, right? Because it's like an imprint. Like we all have these imprints that we get usually from our first sexual experiences, and those imprints stay with us for life. And that's why a lot of people like might develop like a really weird fetish, and people can't understand why is this person attracted to feet or leather or things like that, and a lot of times it's like what your first experience was that is imprinted in your brain.
So. Perfect example of that. I have a fetish for braces on the teeth.
Interesting. Okay.
My first ever girlfriend had braces.
Okay.
The girl I lost my virginity to had braces. So it's like now whenever I see like, and occasionally like girls get into our industry, if they're like 18, 19, they still have braces, and I'm like, yes, book me with her.
Yeah.
But they lose them. They get rid of them after like a year. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That's funny. Keep them on forever.
So what have you learned about kind of female nature in working in this industry? Like, because I think a lot of guys are curious about, I don't know, we have the red pill and all these things. Like, what's kind of your perspective? Because I think, like I said, a lot of guys are kind of jaded, and it's like I don't know. I think there's extremes on both sides, but you probably have a unique perspective considering that you've had this kind of experience. What do you kind of see?
You see how addicted they can get to attention. So as a girl, especially in our industry, as a girl's like popularity grows, so her Instagram following grows, her Twitter following grows, her fan base grows, it doesn't matter like how popular they are, if they're like if they're having a bad day, it's because they're not getting attention.
Interesting.
No matter who the girl is, they need. That's why they'll always jump. You can tell like which girls are having a shitty day. They'll always jump on Twitter and post something just to get all the white knights and simps in their Twitter feed to jump on and tell them how beautiful and lovely they are. It's like they need that attention constantly, and I think our industry like amplifies that amplifies that natural tendency in women to crave attention. It just jacks it up to 11. On top of that, a lot of guys are really like, this might not become as such a surprise, but on top of that, beautiful women tend to have self-esteem problems more so than say an average woman. An average woman who's not like in the limelight, in the spotlight to a degree, tends to have a better sense of self-esteem generally than a woman who's very beautiful but is constantly thrust into the limelight. So what a thing that I've noticed, and maybe you can confirm this or not, John, is that I noticed that the more narcissistic a woman is, the lower her self-esteem tends to be. I find these two to be inversely correlated in women. So.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think it probably comes from identity, right? Because if you are a more attractive woman, then you probably are going to wrap your identity in your attractiveness and your ability to basically cause men to simp to you. Whereas if you're moderately attractive, then you probably have your identity based in something else. It's probably based in, maybe it's the sport that you do, or your passion in life, or your job, or something like that. Where and those things are more steady, so you're getting a constant, like, you're feeling good about yourself more on a more steady basis. Where if your identity is wrapped up in your physical attractiveness, that's more of a, like, roller coaster, because, not like you said, like, not everyone is going to find you attractive no matter who you are.
Mm.
And so I think that maybe that probably would account for a lot of that, is that,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's you also see like how like, because these were like, here's the interesting thing about our industry, right? We don't we sort of, what's the right way to phrase this? We don't teach women to sort of handle their emotions at all in our industry. Like, they can do no wrong in
Oh,
our
okay, I
industry,
see.
right?
Yeah.
Because they're the money makers. Let's be honest. They're the ones that they come to set. They're the reason that we're all making money. Like, the fans are subscribing. They're paying to see her, right?
Right.
So when you come to set, some girls will get away with a lot of bullshit just because they're a moneymaker, and no one calls them out on their bullshit. So you see this, like, you see girls that start out, if they start out like, 18, 19, 20, they get a lot of attention, or they get a lot of they get a big fan base early on, they become very popular, they become a moneymaker early on. You see their behavior just fly off the rails in terms of, like, brattiness and diva behavior on set. You get to a point where every male performer and director in the industry will agree there's certain girls, like, that are a nightmare to have on your set. But unfortunately, the fans don't know that, and the fans love them because they know how to pose. They look really good. They look great on camera, and so they give off a really good performance. So the fans absolutely love them. And then you'll see this as a male performer. It's funny because you'll see the same fans simping over her on Twitter or whatever. And you think to yourself, if only you knew what she was like in person. Like,
Right.
But these guys will, like, crawl across broken glass with their fly unzipped just to worship at her feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see a lot of that. You see a lot of, especially with women under the age, younger girls under the age of 25, where no one is holding them accountable. They don't have a man in their life that is sort of, shall we say, punishing them for their shitty behavior, or holding them accountable for their shitty behavior, trying to correcting their behavior in any way, shape, or form. They're not living with their father anymore, or anything like that. They don't have, like, a long-term boyfriend or a husband or anything like that. So this behavior just goes. This shitty diva behavior just runs rampant. You don't tend to see that, however, in the what we call the MILF performers, the women who are, like, in their 30s.
Right.
A lot of these women tend to have sort of calmed down. Either they got into the industry later, or they've been in the industry long enough where they've calmed down a bit, and they might have hit the wall mentally at a certain point, or they've got a long-term partner, or they've got a husband, and they're a lot more professional and courteous of everyone they're working with on set than, say, some of these younger diva people, so younger diva girls. So it's really fascinating. You get to see, unfortunately, you get to see some of the worst aspects of female behavior completely uninhibited.
Yeah. Okay.
Completely, like, run loose. Like, how much bullshit can I get away with? I can get away with everything because I'm the money maker. I'm getting paid.
So how does that affect? So, okay, like, knowing what you know and what you've experienced, like, seeing this kind of side of women in general, and just knowing what you know now about, like, what gets a woman turned on from doing this. If you're to go out to a nightclub, let's say, or a bar, and try to pick up a girl, what things have you learned from working in the adult industry that would improve that would transfer over in the sense that, like, you would approach it differently now than you would knowing what you know versus before you were involved in this?
To put it in one word, it would be apathy.
Okay.
having a sense, at least for me, that was probably the biggest realization that I had, because I'm naturally a very expressive, like emotionally. I mean, you could tell from my face, I'm a very expressive kind of guy, right? And when I was younger, before I got into this sort of stuff, you know, if I was out in a nightclub picking up chicks and stuff, I'd express too much emotion, or I'd smile too much.
Okay.
Nowadays, like, and this is different for every guy. Like, some guys need to calibrate the other way around. You know, I was a guy who I'm a guy who needed to smile less. So when like now, if I go out and I'm interacting with what we call civilians, like non-industry people, you know, I'm adding an element of like apathy, and basically, like, it's the apathy, and I don't give a fuck attitude. I'm not really smiling that much. And that it's like emotional apathy. It's like anything that you're saying is just like, I really don't care what you're saying. That's how like little value I add to the words that are coming out of your mouth, young lady. And it sounds terrible, but like that kind of almost disrespectful mentality is extremely attractive to women. Like, they love it. They love it. It's just like, yeah, they like it when you're mean to them. You know, that's a classic mantra. And I've had women say that verbatim to me on set as well. Like, yeah, mean Stirling is hot Stirling. You know, in terms of like, even if it's the character I'm playing, even if the character I'm playing is written out as like a creepy, mean, blackmailing kind of guy, that turns them on incredibly, and it makes the sex even better. You know, so I've learned to like add elements of that into my interactions with women and in my daily life.
Interesting. Okay, so the apathy. So almost like
a good example would be if I'm on set with a girl and I can tell she's being I can tell she's a diva, like, straight away. I ain't giving her shit. Like, I ain't giving her any. I'm giving her barely any attention.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like if I see an opening, I'll throw in a little bit of like a quick joke or a jab or something like that. But I'm not like actively going up to her, trying to get her attention, trying to create anything. Because if she's being a bitch, she can go be a bitch over there. I'm not gonna give her any attention while she's being that way. You know? Okay. And then when it comes to the sex scene, you, like, as a male performer, you learn really quickly that if they have that attitude, you have to, when it comes to the sex scene, you have to bring the heat. You have to sort of like be a lot more physically dominant with them, and that snaps them out of that disrespectful mental frame. And when the scene's over, they absolutely love you. They go from like ignoring you like you don't exist to absolutely frothing over you, because you basically been very disrespectful to them sexually during the course of the interaction. So you've sort of broken their princess frame to a degree. Okay,
you've kind of like established the hierarchy, and it's like almost sounds like what you're describing is like this like disapproval, right? It's like like an automatic disapproval of a girl that maybe that you're talking to, if you're picking up a girl in a club or something like that, and so it's like, you're, as opposed to, with most guys, like you said, like they're trying to smile, they're trying to like show interest, they're trying to show that they're, create this sense of that they're really interested in what she's saying, whereas you're
different styles work for different guys. Like,
like
I know guys, like, because there's a lot of really natural what do you call them, like ladies men in my industry, right? They're not red pilled, they're blue pill, but they're very charming guys, right? So they get ladies quite easily. But their style is very different to my style. Like, they're charming, sweet, like gentlemanly, smiling, and the girls love them. But that doesn't work for me. For me, that just doesn't work. Right. So I have to be more of like an asshole, and then that works. You got to find what works for your personality. And probably the reason why that works for me is because I was too far the other way.
Right.
Before I got red pilled. So when it's probably because I slip into being too nice when I try to be nice. Yeah, that makes sense. There's too much of that old conditioning still wrapped up in that behavior, so I have to push it the other way.
Yeah, no, I think that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because then because anytime that I think probably that you're going with kind of the more natural behavior, it's tend to, because naturally we all tend to be like people pleasing, like because that's, we want to naturally avoid conflict, so we act in such a way that is going to produce the least amount of conflict. And so you kind of have to go the other way, because that's, it's against your natural tendency, because you know that that's the thing that's going to, but conflict and tension and passion are all related, right?
Yeah,
Because if you're not creating any kind of conflict, you're not creating any kind of tension there, then that sexual tension isn't created either. It's like,
absolutely.
you just get along with everyone, and it's fine. It's going to be, you're going to be more amicable, but you're not going to create that polarization, I
Like
guess.
women want emotions. It doesn't matter what emotion either. They just want emotions in
Yeah.
general, right? So, but like by adding uncertainty to an interaction, that inherently creates emotion. It's like, does he like me? Does he not like me? Is he not? Is he an asshole? Is he joking around, or is he being serious? I don't know. There's a lot of, that's a ton of emotional variance in this, in like a a 10-second like thought pattern for a girl. Just by
Yeah.
you not immediately like approving of her straight away. By being a little bit challenging, you're creating a lot of emotional variance. You're creating a lot of uncertainty for her. Like what's this? What's the saying? You can be anything to a woman except boring.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's good because you can, I mean, if you're sort of on more on the asshole spectrum, you can always come back from that, because you can
Mm.
always, like, back up, and then be a little bit more nice, or be a little bit more empathetic, and say, oh, I okay, I didn't mean to, like, really, like, all right, like you can get that back, whereas if you come from the nice frame, like, you can't there's no coming back from that, right? It's like once
Yeah,
you're, oh,
because if
say
you,
it,
if you
right.
start if you start in that nice frame, she immediately disqualifies you as non-sexual potential.
Right. Yeah.
Immediately, like right off the bat, you are not sex material, and so
Right.
you can't come out of that frame. Once you're put in that frame of not being sex material, you can't come out of it. But like you said earlier, around you can. You become like, if you're an asshole, and then you pepper in like compliments here and there, you become like the benevolent dictator,
Right. Right.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And they appreciate it more. They value it more. And I've been on set with girls where I've shot with them like the second time or something, and I've completely forgotten that, like, and she's brought up, oh, the first time we worked together, you were a complete arsehole. You said this to me, and I've forgotten that I
Yeah.
that I said it to them. I'm like, but you still remember me.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
It made you remember me, didn't it? And they get this smile on their face, like, God damn it, you're right. They can't help but admit it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that, I mean, it's also just, I think in working with anyone, right? In general, like, you think about, like, the basketball coach, or the varsity sport coach, who was a total asshole, right? And then it was like he was such a jerk, but then he's your favorite coach, right? Because
Mm,
that one time when he was like, that was good, right? Like, he gives you that little bit of approval, and you're like, and even
yeah.
though you have all these other coaches that really encourage you, and, like, it's the asshole coach, because that when that person says something good about you, or gives you some kind of approval, that it's real.
Yep.
And I think that's probably, like, very similar with the male female dynamics. Is like, women are so used to guys just giving them this approval, and it's like, if you can be a little bit more of the asshole and not giving that approval, then when you give it,
Mm,
then it's like, it's authentic. It's like, okay, well, you've actually won me over. You actually have something of value. I didn't just automatically assume you're valuable just because you had nice tits, right?
yeah.
So,
And that with that coach analogy, he's you want to please him
right.
more than you want to please the other coach,
Yeah.
right? Because like you said, he's the asshole who never gives out compliments. Like, motherfucker, like, you work harder for that guy than you do for the other guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think I'm trying to think, if you guys have any other questions, do a
Yeah.
super chat, and we'll get to them. But yeah, I think, this has been really, really, really good. I think it's good to get your perspective
Yeah.
on these things, and guys, go check out the book for sure. I put the link in the chat here,
And
And
if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter is safe for work, so there's not going to be any
okay.
not going to be no tits or dicks or vaginas or anything. So it is completely safe for work. I've made sure that's the case.
I guess maybe one last question to end with here is, what kind of advice, like, this is kind of the world that I operate in a lot with guys is I feel like there's like, you've got MGTOW and black pill guys and all of this kind of stuff where guys are very jaded today, right?
Mm.
And, like, I'm definitely red pilled in the sense that like I understand what female, behavior is like, but me myself, I'm not jaded by it. It's like this is just what the world we're operating in. But I feel like there's so many guys that it's like they feel like almost like a nihilistic view of life because they're like, well, everything sucks and women suck and they have this very bitter negative attitude. What would you say like to those guys? What kind of perspective would you give them? I guess maybe so they don't give up and so they don't stay, because like living in a bitter state is not a great way to live your life.
Yo, yeah. I mean, you get. I think where a lot of that bitterness comes from, because we're brought up with the idea that men and women are equal and the same, right? But we're not. It's like you can't compare. Thank you, John. You can't compare like apples and bananas are not the same thing. Right? They're both
Right.
yeah, like shitty analogy or whatever. They're both fruits, cool. But are they equal? Well, not really, because they're not the same. And we've been brought up in this society that says like that men and women are like the same and they're equal. We're complementary, right? That's the way to look at men and women. We're complementary. So a lot of these guys come at get to this. I think they get to this sort of bitter, nihilistic standpoint because they've lived their life thinking that women should be should be interacting with them the way that men interact with them, on a logical, rational, like or they should have the same definition of respect. They should have this, if I do this for you, quid pro quo, you should do this thing for me. Like they don't, and then when they learn about they get a little bit red pill. They learn about like hypergamy and female nature and things. They give up because it doesn't mesh with their still kind of I guess not blank slate equalist worldview, but the worldview that men and women should be interacting the same way. When you start to realize that, when you don't expect women to act like men, you become less nihilistic, I think.
Right.
When you stop expecting them to, if you're setting like unrealistic expectations for women, like you should, like Tiger got stripes, man. Expect her to act like a woman.
Yeah.
The moment you expect her to not act like a woman is when you're setting yourself up for disappointment. And that's when you start getting nihilistic. That's when you start getting bitter. One other thing I'll add to that is look at the way, like the thing that stops me from being bitter about this, about women and this sort of things, especially given my perspective on life and again, the situation I'm in. Look at women as something that keeps you honest, right? So women this is one way of framing women. If you're coming from this sort of more bitter nihilistic perspective, women are there to keep you honest. Women are there to keep you on your game, right?
Yeah.
Because it sucks that you always have to be on as a man, right? You can't let your guard down. You can't you have to keep working. You have to constantly be improving. You have to constantly be getting better. Money, muscles, game, whatever it is, you have to be improving on firing on all cylinders at all times. Yeah, that sucks, but it makes you better.
Yeah.
It's the fire under your ass that keeps you going. Which would you rather have? Like, okay, compare these two things, right? Being a man and having to constantly be on your game and be firing on all cylinders at once, but you're getting better and better and better, and every year of your life is better. And the older you get, the more experience you get, the cooler you become, the better friends you have, the more money you make, the more successful women you become. Cool. Or be born a woman, you have inherent value at the beginning of your life, and you can't really do anything to improve that value other than maybe stay fit, and then it declines.
Yeah, exactly.
I sure as hell know which one I'd prefer. I'm very grateful that I'm a man. Like I relish the fact that I'm a man, and I think a lot of dudes from that perspective don't appreciate that. They don't think of it like that. You know, they think, oh, women have it so easy, blah, 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 and it's, you know, they get things handed to them all the time. They get stuff served to them on a silver platter. Well, yeah, that's true, but you have the better deal long term as a guy. If you focus on that a bit more, you'll come out a lot better perspective.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm glad that you said that. 'Cause it's funny. I tell guys all the time, like, you know, similar to what you said, like the idea that, like, you know, yeah, it's great to be, you know, a young, attractive woman, but it also probably kind of sucks to know, especially for a lot of women, where it's like you have to spend an hour every day putting on makeup and everything. Otherwise, you're going to look like shit. Like, and you have to keep up that image, right? And it's like, I mean, you know, us guys, we put in the work, but once we put in the work, then we can just go out and, you know, it's like you're it's not a false representation of who you are, but like, you know, I would hate to like have to like, you know, do my hair and put on makeup and all this just to like have any kind of value, and knowing that it's a fake value, like to a large degree. And it's like, it's not really like I'm being valued for this you know, this clown mask that I put on, as opposed to really who I am and what I've achieved in life. And that's, I mean, you know, again, like there's advantages to it in the sense that you don't really have to work for it, and you can have that when you're young, but it fades. But to me, I'm gonna 100% agree with you. I prefer the advantages of being a man, of being able to have control over my destiny, and to, you know, even if I have to put in more work, and even if I have to keep my guard up all the time, you know, and I agree, it's a challenge. It's the thing that keeps you honest. I think that's very good perspective. So
yeah,
let's see, we got one more super chat in here, and shout out to John from Modern Life Dating here. He showed up in the chat. And man, he did this awesome.
I love you, John. I love it's amazing.
John did this awesome interview with like the Beauty Meets Beast, and he just like totally gamed this chick. It was so good. So
I'll have to watch that one.
Yeah, no, it was good because he was just like, I mean, yeah, it was just a great example of. I'm going to point a lot of guys to that now for like seeing game in action, like, because he just did a fantastic job. So, all right, so English Muffin, $5 says, great interview. What are your thoughts on the alarming rates of suicide and mental illness in the adult film industry among men as well as women?
Man, it is creepy. So every year we have a conference called AVN. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it stands for Adult Video Network. It's the biggest. It's like the Oscars of the porn industry, right? It's in Vegas every year, and you know, it's where they give out all the awards and things. And everyone dresses up. They go on a red carpet. It's very glamorous. The beginning of the presentation every year is an what do you call, like, in memoriam section.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All the people in the industry who have died in the last year. Wow, and it is fucking terrifying. It's like it is at least like 20 people long every year.
Wow.
And some of them, and they're not all like, I guess there's some older people, like veteran, like really old, you know, they've passed away from natural causes. But there's a lot of young people in there, and it is just shocking. So there is the suicides tend to be the girls more than the guys. The guys, there's been a few guys who've died from drunken accidents or like substance abuse and things like that. There is actually a lot of you'd be quite surprised at the number of people in the porn industry who go to AA. There's actually a big, like, directors and performers, like, across the board. There's a big push for like sobriety within our industry. Like, not a big push, but like there's a big support group, I guess, for sobriety within our industry. Because a lot of people get into the industry, they either get in with substance abuse problems, or they get into the industry and then they develop substance abuse problems. And luckily, within our industry, there's a bunch of people who've gone through that and can help others to sort of break that cycle and get out of it, and then continue to help others. But it's hard. It's a quite hard question. Like, is it a symptom of the industry, or is it a case where, like, our industry appeals to people who already have that problem with them? You know,
Right.
And honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me the female aspect of the suicide, because when you think about like women getting into the, well, you know, I imagine a lot of women are doing it for the attention or for something like missing in their life, like to try and like it's you know, whereas for men it's probably a lot more like you, like it's an ambitious thing that you strove for, whereas, you know, I mean, I don't know, but I imagine as a female it's probably not that difficult to get into the porn industry, whereas
No,
as a man
no.
it's probably pretty difficult.
Yeah,
Right.
it's complete. It's complete polar opposites.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting though. Okay. um all right, I think that's about it, unless you guys have any more super chats you want to ask me more questions. I think, yeah, this has been this is good. This has really been helpful. I think there's a lot of gems here, guys, for you to pick up on here. And like I said, go check out Sterling's book, and I've got a link down below for his YouTube channel. And yeah, appreciate the time, and appreciate you coming
My
on.
so you got my YouTube channel hasn't been active for like 2 years. I started at my
Oh,
YouTube
okay.
channel when I was back in when I was back in Europe. I thought I'd go around and interview some people and stuff. So I got a few interviews up. Then I hadn't touched it because as soon as I realized I would be demonetized permanently because of my
Oh yeah.
do. I was like, oh fuck this. But now I'm actually going. I've had enough guys in your community, in John's community, in Rollo and Rich's community, etc. Message me and say you need to start doing a YouTube channel and talking about, putting out your own content and stuff. So I will be adding a lot more to that YouTube channel now.
Good. Yeah, no, you definitely should, because I mean, you have a very unique perspective, and I think, you know, I've never heard of a guy that's willing to talk about these things in the porn industry, and it's like, you know, I don't know. I think that a lot of people will be interested in just hearing your perspective, and just, you know, on how you're viewing things, and how those you know, it's a pretty unique thing that's not, you know, not a lot of guys can replicate that perspective. So I think I would definitely invest in it. I mean, you're not going to get money from ads, but
Yeah.
you can sell products and,
Well,
you know,
yeah.
whatnot. So
I've got a lot of stories to tell. So, it's
yeah.
going to be fun.
All right, guys. That's it. Thanks again, Sterling, and see you guys later.
Ciao.